storage, and maybe 1/20th the cost. So if this works, you can put in, photovoltaic or wind generations on buildings and communities. You can store the excess energy. You don't have to hook it up to the major grid, and it will be a real boon to renewable energies. So these are some of the things we're funding. If one of them worked, it would be great. All right, so let me close by saying science is predicting we're altering the destiny of the Earth. This is the climate change. The full impact of what's going to happen, we don't really know, because the energy coming in is the same. The energy going out is lower because of the greenhouse gas effect. So when do you reach new equilibrium? It's when the Earth warms up, so the amount of heat emitted from the Earth is enough to get through the greenhouse gas layer. So how long will that take? Well, it takes a while because the oceans, down at the bottom of the oceans, are very cold. In the Gulf of Mexico, where the BP well was, the temperature was close to freezing. And so the surface to deep ocean mixing takes a very long time, on order of 100 years. And until the oceans warm up, the full effect of what the temperature of the Earth will be based on the greenhouse gases we've already put on will not be known. And that will take 100 years. So if someone tells you, well, why don't we just wait to be sure, it's wait, but then you've got to turn the clock back 100 years and then some. So this is a problem. And so the question is, are we willing to make investments that will secure our economic future and protect the environment for our children and grandchildren? So I'm going to leave you with this image. It was an image taken by Voyager 1. Voyager 1 was a NASA space exploring mission that went and photographed the planets from Mars on outward. But when Voyager 1 was leaving the solar system, Carl Sagan, the astrophysicist, convinced the NASA engineers, why don't we turn the camera back and take one last set of pictures of our solar system? And when they did this, from the distant orbit of Pluto, they found Earth. It's a pale blue dot of light caught in these sparkles of sunlight interference. And Carl Sagan wrote very movingly of this picture. He said, look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother, every father, every hopeful child, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There's nowhere else, at least not in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Like it or not, the Earth is where we make our stand. So that's what's at stake. An ancient Native American saying said, treat the Earth well. It was not given to you by your parents. It was loaned to you by your children. So this is a trust that we should not break. Thank you.
Secretary Chu, Department of Energy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. The Secretary has agreed to take a few questions, same ground rules as we've had yesterday and today. Liz will be taking questions from the middle of the room, and over to you, Liz. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning, Dr. Chu. My name is Mark Garner, and I'm President and CEO of Voight Hydro in York, Pennsylvania. I first would like to congratulate you on your leadership of the Department of Energy. Under your leadership, we've now begun to realize what hydro can do to build the clean energy economy of the future. My company has grown 27% over the last couple of years, hiring more people, investing more capital. My question to you is, we've talked a lot in the last couple of days about wind growth here in the West, and not a lot of discussion about pump storage. So I'd like to know from you what we really can do to kind of jumpstart the discussion of pump storage and how we can make it happen.
I'm so glad you asked that question. First, in hydro in general, we did a survey shortly after I became Secretary of the Energy, and we have tremendous hydro resources in the United States. If you just put in new turbines into old dams, so this is no new large dams and the environmental issues surrounding new large dams, and you put in turbines in dams which are used for flood control that don't have turbines, and you put in run-of-the-river turbines, we have perhaps 70 gigawatts of electricity in hydro without environmental impact. The new turbines are actually friendlier to the fish as well. So this is all good stuff. Pumped storage hydro is something which I am a strong advocate for. I've assigned Stephen Wright, who's head of the BPA, about 6 months ago. He says, this is your major charge now. How do you integrate pumped storage hydro and show that it works? In BPA, Bonneville Power Administration, is particularly well positioned because it is mostly hydro generation, but 20% of its energy resources are now wind. And in the Pacific Northwest, the wind can stop blowing in a matter of minutes to hours, and in certain instances, it could stop blowing for a number of days. The longest was a week and a half. And so right in the same location, you've got wind and hydro, and there are some candidate places where you can use the extra wind power, especially the power at night, to pump water up the hill and then release it in the daytime. And so these are just two holding ponds, a very small fraction of the amount of water. We're talking about the lakes going up and down by an inch. So there's, again, no environmental impact. But you can toggle back and forth this to smooth out renewable power. And anywhere there's hydro resources, all you need, for example, is a series of dams or a small holding pond, which is a few percent of the capacity of the dam, could go a long ways. And so I would be glad, to talk to anybody who has that capacity. Europe is now looking very seriously at wind, but in order to go above 20% wind, and this is major, Denmark is over 25% wind, but it's a small company tied to a very big grid. But if Europe is going to go to 20, 30% wind and solar, you need some energy storage. And so they're looking to Scandinavia, particularly Norway and a little bits of Sweden and Norway's raising their hand and say, we can store half the energy of Europe. And so they are laying underground DC cables to start this. Already, not surprisingly, Switzerland does what I call energy arbitrage. They have hydro resources. French nuclear reactors run, and when you build a nuclear reactor, you keep it running all the time because fuel is only a few percent of the cost of a reactor. And so at night, you keep the nuclear reactors running. You pump water up a hill to Swiss dams. The Swiss buy the electricity very cheaply because it's nighttime rates. And then they sell it to the Italians during the next day. And so it's energy arbitrage in the great tradition of the Swiss bankers. So there's opportunities to make money. There's opportunities to save money. There's opportunities to save carbon emissions. So I think this is, before I leave, I want to make sure that program's up and going and has legs because I think it can support itself as well.
Thank you, Secretary Chu. My name is Jason Kiley. I'm with Rivertop Renewables, renewable chemical company